Oh, hey there, guys. Thanks for joining me. This is going to be like a new thing that I'm going to do. It's Hambone's movie reviews. And I'm not going to be reviewing like every movie that I watch because that would just be, if you count streaming services or whatever, that would be too much. But kind of like it's going to be like you get to go on a journey with me to the movie theaters because this is going to be me reviewing movies that I go and I see and I do and review like movies that I actually go to the movie theaters to see. And for the first time in a long time, because of COVID or whatnot, couldn't go see a lot of movies, couldn't go do a lot of things, and it kind of sucked. And this week, fortunately, my movie theater like opened back up like to its normal kind of operating hours. They're still like being careful and not fully putting everybody in the seats, obviously, but they are allowing like opening up now, just not certain days. They're open up all week. So this past week, I was able to go see the first movie that I've seen probably in the movie theater for like a year and a half, which was like super great. And I was super excited. If you know anything about me, any of the other stuff that I do, big Star Wars fan, obviously. But I also love like horror franchise. The horror movies are like the thing that I like really like and really love. If you take away stuff like Star Wars and whatnot, and some of the comic book movies and stuff. So like I said, thank you for joining me. This is going to be the new thing that I'm going to start doing. So I hope y'all guys enjoy it. And I like to see your comments and stuff whenever I'm done. But like I said, today we're doing The Quiet Place 2, as like you saw the thumbnail when we opened up there. And that is a movie. It is directed by Jim Halpert. It's written by Jim Halpert and Scott Beck. And the main key starring roles was done by Emily Blunt, Jim Halpert himself, Millicent Simmons, Noah Jupe or Jupe, I don't know how he says that, and Cillian Murphy. So we'll just break it down here. This movie is obviously a sequel to Quiet Place 1. And unfortunately, it had to be like released like a decent amount like after what you normally would probably get a sequel released. Just because of COVID and stuff, they were kind of waiting around before they started just like releasing all this stuff into the movie theaters. So they were being careful with that, and I kind of understand that and everything else. This movie, man, I was really hyped to see it. I wanted to see a part 2. I loved part 1. I thought it was just, to me, really super creative. In the first, like just because like of the whole, like you have to be quiet and everything else. And the monsters that were going around that were like, basically had supersonic hearing was like a very interesting concept and everything. And I thought they put like a decent amount of story around in the first movie. Like you really got to know and see like the different characters. You got like that family and the family dynamic and the loss that they had with their younger son because of a toy that made noise and stuff like this. And it's just one of those things to where it was just a really cool concept and everything. And in this movie, it kind of expounds upon that. And one of the great things I like about this movie, it does two things. The actual story starts out right after part 1. So like you could literally watch these two movies back to back and it would be like one long movie. A lot of your sequels don't do that. They'll skip a little bit of time. This one ends or starts directly after Quiet Place 1 ends. Now, one thing also that they do that is like really super cool and I really enjoyed was it was like they basically went back and did like a sequel, but like a prequel at the very beginning of this movie, because right here you see Jim Halpert and his daughter. They're starting to leave this baseball game that they were going to watch, which Millicent Simmons, or her brother, was playing in a baseball game. And during the middle of it, you see like this comet thing, like looks like a comet coming from the sky, and it lands. And then that's where the creatures obviously come from. And they're trying to escape the town. They don't understand what's going on completely yet. And this and that. And then like Jim Halpert jumps out the truck, runs over there to try to see what's going on with this cop that's obviously right there behind him. And like it just starts from there. From that point on, it's like balls to the wall. It's crazy goodness, like a lot of action. I'm going to be honest with you. one of the best openings to a movie. I'm not going to say it is the best because there's a decent amount of movies out there that have like a lot of things going on with it, but it is a great opening to a film, to the point to where they could have actually made the prequel, like literally just a prequel, and I would have loved sitting there in the theater the entire time. Like, after seeing this first part of this movie, I would love to actually get to see the actual prequel, right? Like, them continue the story from where this part of this movie like stops, right? So you get that, which I thought was really cool, really action packed. Like, you get to see these people like not knowing what's going on in that kind of a regard. And then, like, I do love the fact that in A Quiet Place that they did have this family that had the Millicent, her name's kind of hard to do a little bit, but Millicent Simmons, like, be like this deaf character who really can't really hear or anything like that. She had to do sign language because it was perfect, right? Because like in a normal scenario with a normal family, they're not going to know how to communicate as well. So they probably do things and make mistakes, right? That get them caught, that eventually would probably have them like lead them to their death. But because of the fact that they implemented that this family already has a way to communicate without having to make noise, like, it's understandable and believable that they could have survived. Because in this moment where these creatures who can have supersonic hearing, like, and they hear anything and they just go and flat out attack, they're aggressive. There is no rhyme or reason to what they do. They just come at you full bore. They don't care whether they eat you or just knock you into a building and kill you. It's just unstoppable. They're like an unstoppable force, basically. And because of the fact that they implemented that in this family, like, it does make sense that this is a family that probably in this one thing, right? Like, so this family has to go through hardships because they have a kid that can't hear at all and everything. It has to have some kind of, they have like a hearing aid device that maybe she can do a little bit, but like, she's just sitting there and they have to communicate with her all the time, like her whole life. They had to learn all this stuff. So it's almost like they were prepared for this moment, which is like pretty crazy, but it makes the movie, both films really, like super believable, because I can see where, oh, this family can adapt super fast and learn how to be super quiet, still be able to communicate, still be able to do that. And like in this film, like during the baseball game, the mom's actually using the sign language that they use to kind of try to calm down her son as he's up to bat, you know, right before the comet goes. And like I said, this first part of this film, super amazing, super awesome. I would have almost walked out of the movie theater like happy just seeing that part of the movie, because that was like really super good. Then we go back, like I said, this movie starts exactly where the other one ends. And you notice that because of the aftermath of everything going on, that they're actually having to like leave, get out of the actual, like their, you know, it was like a farmhouse thing that they had built, like a structure. They had safety measures and stuff, but it turns out that like one of the buildings on fire with a lot of their supplies, and they really can't stick around. They're going to have to try to go do something. And because like it was established in the first film that some people were lighting fires to let people know that like, hey, we're alive, we're over here kind of thing, almost like a signal, that because they set that up, like they know that someone's, you know, up the hill. They live like, I think it's the Appalachian Mountains, or like at least a tail end of that. And they know that there's somebody up on one of the mountains there that actually is still alive, because they still have their signal burning. So that kind of helps them out, and they go on their journey, and they arrive at this like pretty much like a warehouse or some kind of like factory or something like that, like some old school factory that does a lot of things. Probably like a coal. It might even be like a coal mining deal, because it would make sense because they have like these blast furnaces, it looks like, and stuff in there. So they arrive, and one of the things when they get there, the boy, man, dude, tough. The boy's like walking, they're trying to sneak around, still be super quiet. You see someone looking at him through a scope, and the boy just is like walking, is not really paying attention as much. And he steps like basically on a bear trap and just tears himself up. Now, the reason why I want to bring that part of that movie up is because there's something really interesting that I don't think a lot of people caught, that I just happened to catch, like looking through some images. Okay. So this is like right after he steps in the bear trap. Like, you know, obviously Emily Blunt's character is like, oh, no, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. And she's like trying to do everything she can to like cover up the noise because she knows like this has got to be painful as all get out. And she's trying to take care of her son. But the interesting thing that I liked is this is almost a spitting image to something that happened in the first movie with Jim Halper's character doing the same thing for his son to like get him to be quiet. Because, and it's just really similar. If you look at both images, like it's really similar. And I thought that was like really something really cool that I kind of found in the thing. But like, I do want to expound upon that this movie keeps going. We meet Jim Halpert's friend, Emmett, who is like, he's got a son that's on the baseball team and everything else. And he's got a family. And like, so they established this friend kind of in the prequel part. And then like later on, that's who they end up bumping into. That was Emmett's place. Like he's been stuck there and hiding out and stuff and surviving at this like warehouse / probably like coal mine or whatever it is. And he's out there doing his thing and he's had some bad things happen and stuff like that. But yeah, they show up, they got the baby, obviously, and all that. But this ain't going to be an entire breakdown of the movie. I just wanted to point out some key things, like to give you kind of a thing. Like if you wanted to watch, you know, this movie or go see this movie, like it's got a lot of things going on. The creatures or whatnot is like, obviously they're going to be bringing you like, oh man, this intense, like, ooh, anxiety kind of feel, because like when they're around, you know, stuff's going to happen. One of the great things though, I love the fact that they have the baby in this film is because like, obviously it's something that you can't control. Like a baby's really hard to keep quiet all the time and they don't understand what's going on. So they don't know to keep quiet. And so they have to make this box that they're carrying around that they put the baby in that's basically soundproof. But I love the fact they have that in this film because like they have the oxygen tank and the oxygen starts to run out. So it adds even more stress to the film. It's not just about the creatures possibly going to get them and capture them and kill them. It's also about like having to have these certain things for this baby to accommodate that, like the oxygen and stuff like that. And there's a part in this film where they get into like this like oven style thing. That's why I'm thinking maybe it's a coal mine. They get into this thing and like, obviously you're going to run out of oxygen if you're in there too long. And they're in that in part of this movie, which adds even more to the drama of the film. And I also love certain parts of this film. Like there is a part of this film, like where you literally like the monsters are something you hate. You're like, oh my God, look at these things. They're like killing all these people and stuff. But in this film, something they do that's pretty creative is there's a part to where the death girl is trying to go out and like, she's got this idea and this plan to where, you know, in the first movie, she finds out that high frequencies or whatever, like messes them up and it gives you an advantage over them. So she's trying to take that to another level because she hears music coming from a radio tower. So like, obviously somebody's doing that. They're playing that music and everything else. So she's trying to get to that tower because she thinks if she can get there, she could possibly save not just them, but like the whole world. So like she's on the journey to go do that. Emmett, Jim Halpert's friend in the first part of this movie, you know, has to be pushed. Like he doesn't want to really do anything. He doesn't even want to help him out at the beginning, but he's finally pushed to where he's like, all right, fine. So he goes after her. Well, they end up teaming up and they go to this, trying to find a boat. Well, these people like attack them basically and trap them. And it's a very creative way that they do that. But the Emmett is trapped. He's got a thing around his neck. And if he moves, it's going to make a lot of noise, which you obviously know you can't make noise in this universe. So like that's going on. And these bad characters, obviously, they have the girl and everything. And, you know, like, you know what they're thinking. Like these are these trashy, low down piece of crap people like this coming out of nowhere, coming to do these like heinous things. So, and another reason, like I brought that up because whenever this is occurring, they go to take her away. And Emmett warns the girl, like, hey, jump in the water, dive. Like he learned one thing, which is really cool. Like he learned something during the first, like the prequel part of this movie where he learned that one thing, like what it is to say dive or whatnot. And in this, he does the signal to dive, to tell her to dive, and she knows to like jump in the water. And he gets up and he moves, which makes the noise, which then brings the creatures out. And in that moment in time, because of how heinous these guys, like you knew what was kind of on their mind, you could see like inside them, like what they were probably trying to do. Like these creatures come out and they just start destroying like these bad characters and these bad people that were going to do bad, heinous things. So like it is funny and cool that at one part of this movie, like you're actually rooting for the creatures. Like when the creatures come out and start just taking these like just dirty MFers out, like one by one, you're like actually glad that these creatures are there to do the job, right? Like to take that out and to stop what they were probably trying to do to this innocent girl. And I just look, there's a lot of things in this movie that I really do love. I don't know if anything hampered them at all, like in the filming of this film because of COVID or whatever. But it doesn't look like it. This to me was a very polished film. Is it perfect? No. There's a couple of things in there. Like I would say Emmett's character, Jim Halpert's like best friend that you kind of meet in the prequel part of it. And then he's involved in the rest of the story. Like his character is probably not as fleshed out as much. Like you really don't know. You don't know how good of a relationship him and Jim Halpert had, right? Like you don't know how good of a friends they were. That's one of the biggest things right there is like you just don't understand how close they were. So how big, like, so when Emily Blunt's character's trying to get him to go after her daughter to like save her, to be there with her, to help her out. Like, you don't know, like, if her kind of like, you know, she's all upset and stuff. Emily Blunt plays her character freaking as good or maybe even better as she did in the Quiet Place 1. But you don't know, like, why would he even feel guilty, right? Like, yeah, cool, he's friends, but like, how close of a friends they were, that was something that was a little bit lacking. But besides that, like, he still, I think the gentleman who played the part of like the friend, Cillian Murphy, the guy who played the part of Jim Halpert's friend, like, I think he played the part well. I just don't know if the story allowed it to like be there and let you see like what's going on more with his character. Like I really wish they could have did something to kind of like put together more about his friendship with Jim Halpert. I'm going to keep saying that name, by the way, because I love The Office, so it's not going to change. I'm going to keep saying it. I know I'm saying it wrong, but I'm going to keep doing it. But yeah, like, and like I said, a lot of the people in this movie does act. I'm just going to say this 100%. I took this away from A Quiet Place 1. I'm taking this away from A Quiet Place 2. One of the best things to me is the girl who plays the death girl. And her name being it's one of the coolest names I've ever seen, to be honest with you. But Millicent Simmons, I don't know if that's her real name or if that's like how they actresses and actors change their names around, like stage names or whatever. But Millicent Simmons is one of the coolest names I've ever seen, to be honest with you. And she is in this movie. She's in the first one, obviously, as well as a daughter that can't hear very well. Look, I don't even know if she has a hearing impairment, but like if she doesn't, like, I totally 100% everything she does makes me believe that this character, whether her in real life has a hearing impairment or not, like, I 100% believe that this girl has that hearing impairment. Like, that's how good she acts. She acts that way. She acts really super good in both movies. She does it really super well in this movie because she's probably it switches, Emily Blunt's character's like the mom. She's like the main character, like kind of from the start of the film or whatnot. But like this, she takes over the film because of her journey trying to like get to this radio tower to try to do what she can do to like broadcast a signal that's going to mess these creatures up throughout the film. But it's really super cool. Now, I have heard some people like online or whatnot talking about like character development as a whole, like, oh, for some reason I didn't feel. Listen, this is part 2. Like, you already had part 1. Like, so all your feelings and emotions and stuff for this family still has to be there. Like, because, like I said, it might be suffering from having to be a little bit of a longer time in between the movies than what we normally get with some sequels. So maybe you just don't have that emotional attachment as much because like you didn't watch Quiet Place 1 like super recent. So I would probably suggest maybe going out and watching A Quiet Place first, and then going to see this in the theaters if you're going to do that. Because listen, this family dynamic's still there to me. I still loved it. There was one part of the movie where Emily Blunt's is having to go get some things, and it forces her to pass like their monument that they had for their young kid that passed away because of that toy that made the noise. And just like you can see the look how good that looks. Like, look how emotional she looks. Look how, like, just wretched her face is, because like she just knows that, man, dude, like, maybe we could have did something to change it and whatnot. And then you got Jim Halpert's character had passed away in the first movie. She takes off her wedding ring here and puts it on top of this little monument, this little cross that they had built for their younger son, and kind of leaves it there. But you can kind of see, like, even though there's not a lot of talking in this part, there's this like quiet kind of like raw emotion that is going on. And I just don't understand where people's commentary is like, well, I don't know what's going on, but like, I just didn't feel like the characters really did this. Like, no, man, these characters are already established. We already know their story. Their story is just as heartfelt as it was in the first movie. In this movie, it transitions over to me. I didn't have to like have this movie tell me any more about this character, this family's dynamics. Like, this family was already established well enough for me. Like the pain and the heartfelt sympathy that I felt when Jim Halpert's character died in the first film, whenever she does this to this cross and this monument, like, I just went right back to that moment, right? Like of him sacrificing himself basically for his family. And I'm still there. It still brings me straight in. So I don't get why some people are saying that. I don't understand that. Like I said, the weakest part was probably Emmett's character and them not explaining like why he's such a good friend or whatnot. Like, that is one of those things that I thought was like probably one of the weakest things and moments in the film, but it still didn't take away from the film to me. Like, because I think sometimes we don't need to have everything spoon fed. Like, I understand this guy was a friend. He was probably a friend for a very long time, and to Jim Halpert's character. And with that being said, when you look at the grand scheme of things, like, friendship's friendship. Think about, like, all you have to do is relate it to like a friend that you have, and like what you would expect them to possibly do for you, or what they have done for you in the past. Like, sometimes we don't have to have every little thing explained. So like, it's not bad enough that it took me away from the movie. But like I said, the character still did his part correctly, still played his part correctly, still showed their emotions. Like, the one thing cool about this movie as well, and both movies, to be honest with you, is like the sound design, because like, I love the fact that, yeah, there's some of this music here and there's intense things going on at certain points, but then some points they switch over to like almost like the girl's point of view, the daughter's point of view, where she can't hear very well. So like at all period, like, and so it like dampens to almost no noise or goes strictly to no noise. And I just really think that's really cool. It's one of those things where like The Last Jedi or not, that one moment where like the Haldo maneuver happens and she like runs into the other ship, and like that, like 3 to 4 seconds of just quietness. And then all of a sudden the noise of the explosion, like, it brings this impact. It's kind of cool. And I really love how they implement that a lot in this movie. I mean, it makes sense. The name of the movie is A Quiet Place. And the whole point of this movie is for you not to make as little noise as possible so that you can survive with your family or whatnot. So like I said, overall, really like this movie. Kind of went over a decent amount of it. I was super excited about going through and being able to go to the movie theaters and sit my butt in a theater seat and watch a movie again. It was super exciting. I loved it. The experience. I don't think that experience though is kind of like making me rate this movie any higher or any lower. You'll see that. I'm going to go ahead and talk about a couple things, and like, bear with me, guys. Like, I'm trying to figure out like what I want to do, like how I want to kind of structure this 100%. But one thing I know I'm going to do, I'm not going to back away. A lot of people out there that do these movies reviews, they back away from wanting to do like the 1 through 10 rating scale because, hey, how people are. But I don't care, dude. If you hate my number that I give or hate my rating for some reason, I don't care. It's just a rating, man. It's my rating. It ain't your rating. Your rating on this movie could be totally different from mine, and that's cool. But I ain't scared to put it up there. So I'm going to do a 1 through 10, 5 being like a median, right? Like 5 being like this movie is almost good, but it's really close to being bad. Like that's 5 is like right there in the middle. That's how I'm grading this. There's no like letter grades or anything. It's going to be 1 through 10, like I said, and 5 being straight down the middle. So like if I give something a 5, it's probably going to be something that I don't necessarily love, but I don't necessarily dislike it. I'm kind of lukewarm on it. Anything below that is obviously like a failing grade. Anything above that means it's above average. That I like the movie. So that's how I'm going to be doing my grading scale, but it is going to be a 1 to 10 scale because I ain't scared. I ain't scared. So like this movie to me, I liked a lot about this movie. There's a lot of this movie that I love and everything else. Is it a perfect movie? No. Is there a couple of things that you could talk about, try to rationalize, maybe, do whatever and criticize? Yeah, there's a couple of things you definitely do that on this movie. But there is still a lot to love there. And because of that, to me, it's coming in at an 8. It's coming in at a solid 8, guys. Like, and it's really creeping up. Like, this is a movie that I could see myself watching, and it definitely creep up to an 8.5. I don't think it goes any further than that. I think that, like, this movie does get hurt a little bit because, like, you've already had the first movie. So, like, the first movie is going to hit you a little bit harder because it's like a new concept. It's a new design. It's a new just story period, right? Like, so you're learning about this thing now. Since the veil's been ripped off, the sequel, like, everything that's involved in this movie now. There's no, like, besides the scenes that they put you in and the stressful situations like they did in the boatyard in this movie, for instance, like, besides those, there's really no surprises. How everything kind of works. How everything kind of goes. And that kind of that part of the movie, it's just, like I said, the veil is kind of ripped off, and you already know that going into the movie. So it does hurt that, I think, a little bit on how that is. So I don't think it could ever, like, get any higher than that for me, but it might could jump up to 8.5. But it's like I said, this movie right here, Quiet Place 2, solid 8. Glad you guys joined me today, man. Thank you very much for watching any of our videos, period. Like, whether it's these kind of reviews or trailer reactions, or just going to our main show and watching about the Schmodown, baby, because we like talking about the Schmodown a lot. Obviously, that's where this channel started. And we'll probably be talking about the Schmodown until, like, something happens, like, drastically, because, like, that's where this channel started and we've had fun. So we decided to make other things. But like I said, please leave comments. Like, I don't care, man, if you agree or disagree. You don't agree with my score? Like, hey, man, go in the chat. I talk to everybody that ever puts in the chat. Like, I give some kind of response. I'm the one that mainly, when you comment on any of our YouTube videos, I'm the one that normally goes in and comments back to you and tells you, like, hey, I like this or whatnot. But, like, yeah, man, like, tell me what you thought about the film. Tell me what you think about this idea of me coming in and talk about films that I go, like, basically getting to go to the movies with Hambone. You know what I'm saying? Like, coming in here and being able to talk about films that I actually go see in the movies. Like, I think that's something kind of cool to be able to do. And I'm just super excited about going to the movies and talking about movies. Any things that I need to change, like, if you would like to see me do other things in here, please let me know, man. Like, I don't know. Like, if you don't comment, don't leave suggestions in the comment box or whatnot, or let me know personally. If you happen to follow me on Twitter or whatever, then, like, man, I'm not going to know. I'm not going to know what to change, and then try to see what I can do to make better. But like I said, this is the first time doing this. Thank you very much. Thank you for bearing with me. Hope I gave you some good insights and everything else on the movie and what I thought about it. Like I said, across the board, this is a great movie. To me, an 8 is way above average. It's getting close to that, like, possibly one of my favorite movies of the year. We'll see what I end up seeing in movie theaters the rest of the season, though. I'm trying to make plans now to go see my second movie already, man. I can join on that AMC Stubs list, baby. But like I said, guys, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And like I said, man, leave the comments, man. That makes a big, huge difference for any of our stuff. Like, the comments and stuff like that help. And until next time, man,